Hello, and you are listening to FPcast, the official podcast for Fruitless Pursuits, where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I'm Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about...
movies, television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
Squads.
committing suicide on the silver screen.
Yes.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, squads. And mainly, I mean, that's our main meat of today's meal.
Yes.
Audio meal.
Yes, we've got a bit of
Oral
Suicide
meal.
Squad serving up on a plate.
We watched Suicide Squad, and I sort of think always thought this was going to be an interesting review, seeing as how we were audacious enough in the past to claim that Batman v Superman was not the worst movie ever made. Mm-hmm. And it was actually, fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
So now that Suicide Squad's getting ravaged by the critics, I suppose people have been saying, well, what do you guys think of that? Are you going to defend that? So we're going to get into that. And,
Are we still DC apologists?
Yeah. No, I think what we've tried to do in this show as much as possible is tell the truth. Mm-hmm. So we're going to tell the truth.
Okay.
So we're going to get to that. And it's not far off because it's been a bit of a slow... news week. A bit of a funny week, really. It's my birthday week. We're recording later in the day because then we're going to go to my 40th party and I'm going to get very drunk. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like calm before the storm, I feel.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm gonna leave you to the drinking.
And I feel a bit ranty today.
Okay.
I feel like it might be one or two little rants coming on.
Yeah, I've
Got rants in my pants.
Oh, really? Oh. Yeah, I've mostly stayed away from Facebook and stuff today because I kind of don't want to get involved. Yes, after our movie viewing experience last night, there are things to be said.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Which is good that we have a podcast and we can say these things.
I almost feel like we should just do it.
No, let's get other shit out of the way
sure?
and then we can
Alright.
just go for it.
Okay, just a little bit of news. Here's a bit of interesting news that people can complain about on the internet. Splash. Because everybody loves Splash.
Oh, just all-time
huge
favourite.
part of everybody's childhood.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is
Yes.
a guy
Yes.
who finds a mermaid. I don't think he knows she's a mermaid at first. Played by Daryl Hannah.
Yeah, I don't actually remember really anything about Splash. Is she in a bathtub? He puts her in a bathtub or something?
No, what happens is she sort of comes to shore and sort of finds him. I think maybe she rescued him at some point or something.
Okay.
And he's like, whoa, hot girl, but she doesn't really speak. She kind of talks like a dolphin. And, this was the very first fish out of water comedy, basically. And he doesn't know that she's a mermaid at first. And, there's a famous scene where she's in the bath and she relaxing in the water and flops her big old mermaid tail out.
Okay, yes.
And then he sort of comes home and he's like, honey, what's happening in there? And he's knocking on the door and he wants to come in and she's panicking and she's trying to blow dry the tail and stuff because she wants to hide it from him. It's something you can't hide forever, having when your bottom half is a fish.
It's a fish, yes.
We live in a leg world.
We do, yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that you and I, for example, are a couple of landlubbers. I don't think that's
yes.
racist to see people. Mer-people.
Mer-people, yes.
Yeah. Is that the preferred term? See, that's how long it's been for me.
Well, see, I must admit that I don't have any in my friend circle, so I can't ask them what their preferred term is. It's very unfortunate.
They don't like bunch of deepies. They hate that.
I imagine so.
Salted crusties.
I get
not a fan of.
Because I saw them obviously when I was very, very young and then never really saw them again. I would always get Splash and Mermaids mixed up. Was that the Cher one?
Yeah, I think that's quite significantly, not significantly, but quite a bit later.
Okay.
Is my guess.
Yeah.
Unless, there was a period in the 80s where everybody just had mermaid fever.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like when there was all the movies with vampires and werewolves and stuff. There was just mermaid fever.
I wrote a lot of mermaid fan fiction.
Okay.
My description of the fish half. They were very explicit, but quite arousing. Yeah.
There you go.
So they're going to make Splash again because everything's on a cycle, basically. Like, it's, I think there was legislation or something that when a movie reaches a certain age, you have to do it again.
Oh, thanks, Obama.
Well, because we know there's only 7 stories in the world.
Yes.
So it makes sense that this story about Tom Hanks and the Mermaid, which is famously one of those 7,
Yes, absolutely.
should come back now. But let's reimagine it, Hollywood's thinking. Let's reimagine it for a new era.
And let's gender swap it because that caused no controversy recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going to gender swap it. So it's a woman. It's I can't remember her name. Gillian Bell, I want to say, comedian.
I'm not sure. When you seem to know who she was.
Yeah,
I
really like her. I find her very attractive in a not just physical way, but I mean because she's got this kind of round, squishy Mae Whitman kind of thing, which I do really like. But yeah, she's in the comedies I've seen her in. She's usually like the sort of supporting friend who's usually a bit sort of snappy or
I looked up her IMDb and I'd probably seen
off-kilter.
about 6 or 7 movies that she'd been in, but I didn't actually remember which
She's
one
cool.
she was.
I like to watch her on screen, so I think that's great. And speaking of people you like to watch on screen, the merman, I suppose.
Well, it's going to be mer-person.
He's not a maid.
He's definitely not a maid. Well, he might be. You never know. Obviously, the best choice, Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
Wonderful.
That's pretty great.
It is pretty great, because I'd been just, like, maybe a couple of days before this announcement, I'd been watching, because, like, we saw Hail Caesar earlier in the year, and as a movie as a whole, it was maybe not fantastic, but a lot of those scenes in isolation are pretty magical. And I was watching his, like, the bar scene that he does with the tap dancing, all the sailors and stuff. And I was just thinking what a wonderful, diverse actor he was. And then he's going to be a merman!
Well, what we probably didn't realise is that being a sailor was probably just another step
It's a gateway.
towards becoming a mer-person.
Going full merman.
Yeah. And obviously, I think you're right about the vampire merman sort of thing, because Jason Momoa's doing it. He's being a merman. I don't know who...
Say that to his face.
Well, look, hey, I believe I'm using the correct nomenclature.
How do you like being a merman, Jason?
Yeah, that's what happens in that trailer, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
I heard you can talk to fish.
For curry, I hear you can talk to the fish. I mean, he's not having a bar of that.
No,
There's
that's
more
right.
to him than that. He's not just some fish negotiator.
He can talk to octopi, too.
Yeah. And dolphins, they give birth to live young.
They do.
They're mammals. Yeah.
Sharks do, too.
How do you like that, Bruce Wayne? Where was your back computer then? So I think that's really interesting. Obviously, it will ruin a lot of childhoods.
Yeah, I think it is very, very funny that
very controversial and brave.
that a lot of, around Ghostbusters time, with the dudes going, well, what if your favourite movies were, gender swapped and remade, and then this announcement came out and everyone just absolutely loves it, and they're like, oh, okay, all right.
It's hard for me to think of a movie that I wouldn't enjoy gender swapped either way. Groomsmen. Paul Feig's Groomsmen. All those wacky groomsmen having diarrhea and stuff. Can you imagine?
Well, I have, because, I was watching Bridesmaids thinking, would I laugh anymore if this was men having sushi and then shitting themselves? Probably not.
No.
I feel like I probably wouldn't enjoy it.
What about
either way?
Jaws and the shark is female?
Did they specify the gender of the shark at the time?
The shark's name's Bruce.
Yeah, but so was Caitlyn Jenner's at one point.
Well, then that's obviously the way forward. That's the kind of...
Okay, alright, the shark has a... Okay, the shark transitions.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic. It's, like, so representative.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything that I wouldn't be, Indiana Jones is a lady. Isn't that just Tomb Raider?
Reservoir Dogs, like with Amy Schumer in a suit,
Yeah.
playing Miss Pink.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm all over that. So, yeah, no problem with that at all. I think, I'm comfortable with fluids. Yeah.
Yeah, you sure are.
So,
Yeah.
it's fine. absolutely fine. So, and, you know, there'll be a lot of fluid splashing around.
There will.
And
Yes.
splash.
Yes. I don't know. They haven't announced directors or writers or anything yet that you've seen?
I don't know. I just hope that, much like at SeaWorld, they designate the first couple of seats of the cinema as a splash zone and give you a
yeah.
disposable poncho.
Yep.
So, 4D experience. I think the world's ready for that extra D.
Well,
you ready for
I'm ready for Channing's D.
Are you ready for some extra D, listeners? Let us know if you'd like a bit of extra D
Oh, speaking of extra
in your
D,
front row. Yes.
did you see or hear of the photos of Orlando Bloom that have come out over the weekend?
No, I heard about it. I didn't
Yeah.
see them, and this was with Katy Perry.
Yes, yeah.
Was Katy Perry nude?
No, she was not
Okay.
nude. She was wearing a bikini.
All right.
And so they're on this, like, longboard kind of thing, and she's just sitting on the front of it,
Yeah.
like, facing forward,
Yeah.
obviously, and he's behind her with, like, a paddle or whatever, just, like, paddling them along completely naked.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, okay.
Could you see that man's chop? Is what you're trying to say?
You could definitely see the chop from many angles in the
Okay.
pictures that
Right.
I just happened to glance at accidentally.
And what's your verdict?
Look, it's a above average chop.
It's a fair chop.
It's a fair
All right.
chop, yeah.
Let's hear it for Orlando Bloom, everybody. He's got a fair chop.
Apparently he's a dickhead, but he's got a
Yeah.
fair penis. Well done to him.
Well, that accounts for something. Let's talk about trailers.
Okay.
Dunkirk. Tell me about this, because I thought it was about a certain space captain's sexual adventures.
Okay, yeah.
But,
who's been done by Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
A lineup, all these women talking about their saucy stories.
Now, I must be honest, I had completely forgotten that this was a Christopher Nolan movie.
The trailer won't let you forget.
No, it will not. No. Brrr. The only reason I remembered it is because the guy from One Direction is in it, Harry Styles, and I just thought it was just a Harry Styles World War II movie, and that's all I thought. Then his trailer came out, and I was like, oh shit, Christopher Nolan. Shit, Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy's in it. What the fuck is this movie? The trailer I actually quite like. A lot of the text that comes up on the screen is a little bit, at the moment of fucking annihilation, victory is success or whatever. A little bit heavy-handed, but I do love that the shot of them in the U-boat, and one soldier kind of turns around and they all turn around and then they like all take shelter. That was even watching it then for probably the third or fourth time, I did still get chills a little bit. I think it looks really really good. Obviously it's a teaser, so we're not seeing much of it.
They're all shuddering. Is that because there's some like big like Voltron or something descending upon them?
There might be. Well, we don't know.
Is it just a World War II movie, or is it like?
As far as I'm aware, it's just a straight World War II movie, which I'm interested to see what he does with that.
Well, you know, like people say that you know they milk Star Wars. What about World War II? And that's the war that everybody milks. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, haven't we seen this before? I know, like you look and you go, oh, they're all trembling. Oh gosh, war is scary and horrible. I don't need Christopher Nolan to tell me that. I know that. Mm-hmm. I know that. That's like when Boy in the Striped Pajamas comes out and everyone's reading the book and they're like, oh my god, I cry.
Those Nazis were awful.
And I'm like, yeah, the Holocaust was really sad.
Yes, it was.
It was. Like, it was really sad. It's kind of like picking at an old wound, isn't it? You know, never going to heal if you keep picking at it, to quote Jim Carrey in Batman Forever.
Never forget.
Yeah, I guess, but you're probably not likely to. It wasn't even 100 years ago.
No, you're right. You're right. The 100th anniversary of World War One has been.
More time has passed since I was born than World War II to my birth.
You're right.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, you know. Yeah, I'm pretty old. But that's okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Christopher Nolan, let's hope. It's certainly visually very interesting. But, I don't know, sometimes the Emperor has no clothes. And even if it's a fair chop, you can see it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it's always interesting to see a director's take on what is something that we have seen before. Like, I was watching a movie, I think it was last year, it was called, pretty sure it's called Woodlawn. It's just an American high school football movie, which has been done a million billion times, but the way that it was actually shot was one of the best football movies that I have seen. And it was a Christian football movie, so it was a little bit more Jesus-y than I would normally watch, but the actual cinematography of the football stuff was great.
But can't we just say, all right, we've got Schindler's List, we've got Saving Private Ryan, done. We've got it. We've got it covered.
Yeah, no.
Or, if this one's better,
Yes.
we should destroy one of the other
Oh,
ones.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I say that as a lover of film.
Because you can't have more than one version of something.
No.
As we've learnt with Ghostbusters, when the original was burnt, the second the new one came out.
Yeah.
Which was such a shame, and it's so sad that no one will ever get to see that original again.
I wish they just knocked on my door and let me hand it over instead of...
coming into your house with flamethrowers.
Yeah, breaking through that window.
Yeah.
But I guess progress.
Yeah.
Got to
happen.
give something to the women.
Yeah, you do.
4Ds. So, The Eagle Huntress. We just watched a little trailer for that too. God, you think, like, you know, I think 40 years, I'm pretty accomplished. But then here's this young girl.
Wrangling an eagle bigger than she is.
Yeah, she's got a bloody eagle on her arm. It's a documentary about a girl. And this is, you know, generally men grabbing the eagles, doing the eagle things. And then this girl's watching and goes, well, I've got an arm, I've got an eagle. Why don't I put the two and two together? And doesn't just come up with 4. She comes up with a big success, grand success by the look of it. And interesting too, because our friend, Daisy Ridley, a.k.a. Ray Bay, is doing the voiceover, like Morgan Freeman in March of the Penguins. Adding a little bit of class to this very dusty, uplifting but very dusty story.
Yes.
About the Eagle Huntress. So I thought that was kind of cool. Nice to hear those dulcet tones while also seeing a big eagle going. And that
fly around and like get rabbits and stuff.
Yeah, you see that girl, they're talking about like how tough she is. She's trying to rip the leg off a calf.
yeah. They're like, she's strong, and they were dragging a calf across a paddock.
Which, no, don't be horrified, because that's cultural. Like, in our culture, like, if you're going to prove how strong you are, you rip a telephone book in half.
Yes.
Really strong, Hulk level strong, you would rip a telephone booth. Hard to find.
Yeah,
nowadays.
And if you just want to hint at it, you just throw a phone at someone, Russell Crowe style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Johnny Depp do that too?
Don't know.
Probably would if
just add to the laundry list of scumbag shit that he does.
But otherwise, rip the leg off a calf if you're not near a phone book or a phone booth.
They've got, like, one leg is spare, you know? Like, they've got 3 other good legs.
It's not going to impede them too much.
No.
And that's what I think. Like, why eat it all at once and lay in bed with a stomach ache when you can take off a little bit at a time and have it last?
Yeah.
And I said I was going to have a bit of a rant. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I did read all the full details, and I don't have them up in front of me, so I'm going to paraphrase a bit. But I really enjoyed Daisy Ridley's Instagram, and I think that she is a very sweet, positive person, probably to a detriment sometimes, because there's a lot of wolves out there. But she's done a lot of just really nice sort of positive things, and I like the way that she communicates with her fans and sticks up for herself. When people were like, you know, she posted some fitness video and she was sort of doing some sort of grindy exercises, and people were like, oh, fucking grind me kind of thing. She was like, hey, look, I'm a person, I'm not an object for you guys to, I don't know you guys, you know, knock it off, basically. She's talked very candidly about her own health things and all sorts of stuff. I really like that. So, I was really horrified to find out that she'd been chased off of Instagram. And it was because of her support for somebody else at an event she was at, talking about how, you know, we've got to stand up and look out for people who are getting killed, you know, stop gun violence, basically.
Okay.
So she spoke. She applauded someone for speaking out against gun violence at some award show thing, and then people started, "Oh, I don't know. Now I'm not going to be a Star Wars fan, and don't bring your opinions on stuff that you don't know about, and all this sort of bullshit." And kind of laid it all on her. So they are like choosing. I just can never understand how someone can be passionate about a gun, especially over a person. Like, that's just crazy to me that people feel that guns are something that, like, it's that important to them that they'll just, like, you know, are willing to lose their humanity or compassion to just go off at someone. And, I just thought that was really, really fucked up. And I think it's interesting where I was listening to some older people talking about this the other day about, the world's such a terrible, scary place, and somebody got knifed in London or something, and I think it's like terrorism or whatever, which it's likely not.
Like, I'm pretty sure that people get knifed in London all the time.
And all around the world, and it's not terrorism, and that's, of course, just the fucking media cycle, and that's what's going to get people clicking
Yeah,
and
it's
all
like
that sort of
there were
stuff.
no bombings this week, so they have to claim that someone getting knifed was terrorism.
Yeah, and you think that, well, really, when everyone's going, the world's a terrible, scary place, all these vile things are happening, you think most people aren't getting killed by terrorists, especially in our lucky part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting around eating Cheetos and drinking Coke Zero and stuff, which is great. It's not that bad. And I think, like, what does make the world, like, more of a fucking vile place is that people will do all these, like, just horrible, hateful, discompassionate, is that a word? Things over shit like guns, like over their right to have a fucking assault rifle or something. It's just crazy. And it's just like this sweet woman giving her opinion about something that she was affected by at somewhere that she was at. And I just can't imagine that insecurity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on Twitter that John Boyega's said stuff about, being like anti-guns or whatever, and if people give him shit, he just, like, tells them to grow up, and then they just leave him alone. And it's like, well, maybe why don't you stop being mean to the woman then?
Yeah, and to his credit as well, to say how awesome he is, people who were like, oh, well, this is an outrage, like I am now, took to him and said, you've got to talk her into coming back and stuff. And he was like...
No.
He's like, that's her decision. She's doing what's right for her. That's not my right to tell her what to do. And she's my friend, and I'm supporting what she wants. And you're just like, yeah, great, perfect. So it is kind of easy to not be like a total douchebag. So I don't know why it's the default setting for some people. It's just fucking incredible. That's my rant this week about that sort of stuff, because I see it on... God, every, like, Facebook page where Facebook news article where something's happened, the amount of people that are just spewing kind of hate about it. And, oh, good, well, they deserve that. Or, oh, well, everyone's trying to be PC now. Like, I don't think it was all that bad or whatever. And you're just like, fucking hell. Like, how do you people function? It's just crazy. Anyway, fuck everyone. I think people should be put on a big round rock and sent just floating off into space. Yeah. Yeah,
they can go and live on the moon. I think that should be the thing, like, when we finally colonise the moon, like, you should just it should be just, like, moon prison, and just send all the, like, shit people to the moon. Yeah. Because there's a lot of space up there.
The question is, okay, but then who decides who's shit people, who's not, who has to go to the moon, who stays, how do you manage that? I'll do it.
Yeah.
Fine. That's easy.
Yes. We'll do it.
So
it would just be like they'll just have just a referendum. Yeah. And just put it out to everybody and go, should this guy go to the moon? You go, sure. Off you go.
I would be happy to spend some time.
And, like, it's not going to be, like, we're not sending them to the moon and, like, they're not going to have facilities or anything. Like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay for them on the moon. It's just that we don't have to deal with them anymore.
They can have shit potatoes.
Yes, they can.
I don't mind spending, like, a night, maybe 2 weeks a night, but that's got to be flexible. Like, it's sitting at one of those podiums with a wig on and a thing, and someone will come up and go, "Hi, my name's Charlene," and I'll go, "To the moon!"
How long's the sentence? Doesn't matter. To the moon.
Yeah, and I'm willing to put in a couple of hours a week to do that if necessary. So yeah, I know people don't always love to hear people, especially like pop culture commentators, because what do we know, etc. Talk about politics, but do know a fair bit about moon politics. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Shall we look at Suicide Squad?
Yeah, okay. We've got all the little blind box figures lined up here on the desk. I think it's kind of almost some ways for moral support, and in other ways just to remind us that things actually happened in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, There's a sort of a funny claim that Suzanne made as we sort of waited to go to the cinema, and she said to me that that I'm predisposed to liking things. If I think that I'm going to like something and I want to like it, then I will like it no matter what. And certainly there are things that I defend and that I like that I think has merit beyond what people ascribe it. And can have certainly opinions that are contrary to the nerd hive mind. And going into this, it really wouldn't have had to work very hard to make me like it, because I was very seduced by the imagery, the character designs. I like the trailers.
The marketing's been fantastic for this movie.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
I was quite excited for. In fact, really the 4 movies I was excited about this year were Civil War, Suicide Squad, Ghostbusters, and Rogue One. So it was up there. So I was really prepared to love it. I was hoping it was going to be the next sort of Guardians of the Galaxy kind of hit. And then, of course, when the reviews came out, it was like, oh, I'm going to have to manage my expectations, but I still think I will enjoy it. I think I'll get something out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, when the Batman reviews came out, we had a differing opinion to what a lot of those reviewers had. So we went, well, maybe people are just looking at it in a different way, and if we're looking at it in the way that we looked at Batman versus Superman, maybe we'll still enjoy it.
Yeah, because I think we talked about this sort of preemptively last week, this idea of, well, what do I want from this kind of movie? And plot's not a massive part of it, because I think a lot of the plots of superhero movies that I like Age of Ultron, etc., they're not special. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, what's the plot for that? Blue guy wants Spaceball, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. For me, it was the imagery, it was the characters, and it was the banter. It was the interaction that really sold it. So I was hoping I would get something, at least on a visual level. I am really disappointed. It just feels to me like such a waste. Like, you had all the stuff. You had all these great toys to play with. And I'm just baffled by what was done with them. It's a very, very clumsy, messy movie, and not even in the way that, like, I think Batman Superman's kind of messy and clumsy, and it tries to do too much, but I do actually think there's more of a...
It's more Batman vs. is way more cohesive, and it's much easier to follow. It's funneled into a very kind of obvious place towards the end, and this was just like a fucking tree with, like, you're trying to keep it going up, but it just keeps shooting out to the sides and shit's going everywhere.
And what it chooses to focus on, like, when you look at what it has to play with and what it chooses to do with those things, it's fucking crazy. Like, it's just insane. So
I think it started off having quite a bad taste in my mouth from pretty much Harley's introduction, which was like 5 minutes into the movie, and then it didn't really pick up from there for me.
I didn't mind that, but there's obviously some sort of weird pacing thing, and something has happened to this film. We know there were reshoots. It's hard for me to imagine with what's there how it could necessarily have been incredibly better, because it would have had to have followed that main thread, and I think that main thread is problematic. But you can tell straight away that the pace is really odd. Like, there's almost 3 scenes in a row where Viola Davis's character, Amanda Waller, convinces us of her plan and what she's going to do and why. And it's not convincing. There's no reason for this squad to come together. Like, the kind of idea that's posited in the trailers of, well, if there's a Superman level threat, we need to control something. So we'll get a mentally ill woman with a baseball bat. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then the actual thing that they end up going up against, the sort of villain and the antagonist in this film, makes absolutely 0 sense in the context of the film. And I don't mean because of any sort of supernatural or superhero kind of... Because I'm on board with all that when I watch a comic book movie. I just mean that what they're battling shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just a very bad plan all the way along. And you think, here was this wonderful opportunity to go the other way, to go, this is about getting jobs done that we don't want the government to be
aware that we're
doing. Yeah, things that are difficult, morally difficult, politically difficult.
Yeah, the concept of, if they get caught, we throw them under the bus. Like, that was like, oh, okay, I'm interested in that. But then they just didn't kind of, when it really came time for them to send the squad out, it felt like they'd done no groundwork. It was like pulling 6 pit bulls out of kennels that you've done no training with and just going, off you go. And it's like, what are you expecting to happen there? It wasn't
a real mission. You needed to stick to that premise of we're going to go and do this underground thing. And really, your bad guy, I just feel like it should have been the Joker. It should have been about that. Like, he shouldn't have been a side thing. Because
the Joker, if you took the Joker out of that movie, it wouldn't have affected that movie at all.
No, he's mostly utilised in flashbacks. And, I don't know, are we ready to talk about individual performances? This is going to be all over the place. I know there's been controversy about his look. I'm very open to new things, new ideas. I quite liked him in the trailers. But it was never anchored for me. Part of it, I think, is his fault. Part of it is just the weird pace that this thing is shot. Like, he's not given a decent reveal. He just sort of spills into the story.
Yeah.
Because it's a flashback sort of montagey origin story for Harley and Joker, the character never has any room at all to breathe. There's never any moment where, and Batman Superman suffered from this at times as well, where the character can live within a scene and build to something. Whereas you compare it to Heath Ledger's Joker, when he comes in and he does the pencil trick and then he explains to everyone what he's going to do, that scene gives him a good few minutes to sell you on the character and to really engage the character.
Yeah, you need to be engaged with these characters, even if they're bad guys. You don't have to love them, but you need to kind of give a shit about them.
Or that wonderful scene in Dark Knight, the Batman-Joker interrogation scene, which is so brilliant, and it gives both people just... and that's not about flashy sets or anything. It's putting these two characters in a small room and going, now act the shit out of this for a couple of minutes, and just letting them act. And he never has that room to build into anything. Every time he's about to do something, like, kind of, is this going to be scary? Is this going to be fucked up? We just cut away. And there's weird hints of fucked up things in there, which you can tell that... I don't know if Jared Leto was like, oh, what if this happened, this happened, this happened, but the story never makes use of them. An example I'm thinking of is that shot, which is in the trailer, of him in the Circle of Knives, which really is just set dressing. I don't know if you noticed, but in the... I never noticed it in the trailer, but it might even be cropped out in the trailer, but at the edge of the circle, up at the top, are sets of baby clothes laid out in the ring.
Oh.
So that it's sort of like creepy, weird suggestion of something more fucked up than is ever remotely in the film. But it's just dressing. It has no weight to anything that's going on. And I found that really problematic. Plus, I feel what he's doing is too affected. It's like too camp. He's so sort of gesturing, and that he's almost getting into Jim Carrey Riddler territory.
Yeah, he's definitely not, like, at no point did I find him... scary. Like, even the Jack Nicholson Joker is scary in its way, but this was maybe they were going for unsettling. I was unsettled by him because he was playing it like a fucking sex offender, which I wasn't really sold on wanting to watch that for 2 hours. But I wasn't. I was open to having my mind changed on him, but ultimately it was not.
And also, like, the Joker smiles. That last time we see him, he does not smile at all in that scene. In fact, he's got this I've just shit myself look on his face. And considering what he's doing in that scene and what he's accomplished, you think there would be a little bit of evil joy there. It's just some weird choices that I just did not get. The Australians clearly were the best thing.
They were. Like, I felt like even before we saw this movie, we were going to probably have that opinion, but...
It really was. Though.
It really was. Really was that way. Like, I didn't love Harley. I think Margot Robbie worked very, very hard with what she was given. Maybe her accent didn't try as hard as she did, to be honest. It was a bit the nanny crossed with, Shazza from Quinana.
It was really scattershot. There's a couple of moments where she's obviously doing that sort of retro flapper kind of, gangster's mole cartoon voice from the animated series.
Yeah.
But then really she's just kind of neutral. And again, I wasn't blown away by her either, and that's so disappointing because I went in wanting to love the shit out of that character. And even with the bad reviews, I'm thinking she's going to be really great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of potential there. But again, the character doesn't have room to breathe. No. She... nothing settles in. It's really just one-liners and reaction shots.
And she's treated quite badly by the movie.
And the one-liners aren't good. Like, the best ones are in the trailers. And there's something sort of awkward about the humour. It never flows. And we all have our different things that we are willing to accept and not accept. Like, I'll take, strong visuals and iconography over a plot, for example. But, poor, character writing and, things that fall flat and just don't really kick in, that's a big problem for me. Everything was delivered like a punchline, and now we cut to Harley and look at her reaction or whatever. Whereas a lot of the humour that I liked in things like Ghostbusters and Civil War has that really loose, funny improv feel where people are throwing lines in rapid fire and it's still just barreling along. Tell us the story about the smallest bow tie in the world, which is just a little thing that's happening underneath what is already happening.
Yeah.
Or Paul Rudd getting out of the van and meeting everybody and just the little things he says to, it never has, they don't have that chemistry as a group.
No.
They don't feel comfortable and loose and improv-y with each other.
And that's really the biggest failing of this movie, I think. If you're looking at, if you're comparing it to something like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is, again, about a team of scumbags coming together to fight a cause, even though we had limited sort of introductions to all of those characters in Guardians, we were made to give a shit about them very quickly. And I got to the end of this movie not giving a shit about any of these characters.
Yeah.
Even when they were trying to sort of push that, emotional edge with some of them, they were just such tired tropes that it was like, why do I care? Why do I care about these people? And the answer was that I don't.
Yeah, I got a sort of fun kick out of Courtney playing Captain Boomerang. But
even him, I loved him at the start. He had some great lines.
It never went anywhere.
And the way he was actually delivered into that first kind of squad scene where they were all in the sort of chairs and then he rocks up in a jumbuck and a tucker bag. And but then, as the movie goes on into that kind of third chapter, he just has nothing to do. He barely has any lines. He kicks some people in the face a bit, but he doesn't really do anything. And it was
no one's powers are really utilised that much. And do you notice, when we first get introduced to him and he throws a boomerang?
Yeah.
It doesn't come back.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. That's a real problem for a master of boomerangs, in my opinion.
No. Does it? No.
It just hits the guy and the guy falls and then we cut.
Oh, yeah, okay. In his... Yeah, that scene.
And I was so confused because Viola Davis is and the Aussie... What?
The Aussie. And I was like, who the fuck is... Oh, okay.
Oh, the Aussie. It's a fucking Aussie, Viola. Fucking Aussie. The Aussie. And she goes, boomerang. It's a boomerang, you daft bin.
Yeah. No, he was definitely a big highlight.
She's like the Aussie and his boomerang.
Yeah. I really enjoyed him, and a lot of the reviews that I have read say that he was a minor highlight for a lot of people, but even then he was fairly ineffectual.
Margot needed more room to breathe. She needed more room to breathe in her pants because it had that comic book thing where I love this costume, I love the look, but even for me,
it's not practical.
Just when they have those moments where it's, we're supposed to be feeling sad about something, or this is supposed to be, you can't help but go, but the camera's halfway up her bum and her cheeks are hanging out, and which is what comics do really poorly as well. You have all these artists that go, I'm drawing this sad scene, but I'm also drawing this woman who's hot like Wonder Woman and she's really hot, so I'm going to draw her in this pin-up pose. And you just go, but you've just completely taken all the power out of what that scene is supposed to make me feel. Whereas you look at those works that have stood the test of time, like Watchmen, and those characters are acting. There's none of that. There's no, I'm going to put the camera up someone's bum during a sad point. You know, it's...
Yeah, and I think, you know, the world has changed, and it feels like this movie exists, like, 5 years ago. And it's something like, even this year with something like Warcraft, with the character of Garona. It is Garona, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, my little pretty one.
And she, you know, when you first meet her, she's in kind of like, you know, bra and panty kind of things. And then they go, oh, well, this is no good. Have some armour. Wear that for the rest of the movie. And it's like, great, fantastic. That's useful. And she doesn't have her ass hanging out.
Oh, yeah, look, and it's minor. Like, I'm not saying... I know there's been people that complaining about the over-sexualization of Harley Quinn just from, you know, trailers, posters, things like that.
I think that's the character. Like, she just gets over-sexualized anyway.
Like, I'm fine with how it looks. And I think, like... I just think choose your moments where you're going to go, this is the shot where she's playing with her sexuality, and this is the shot where she's actually supposed to be feeling something real. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't do the, like, sexy shot when it's not the sexy moment.
Yeah, and, like,
it just doesn't work.
She had, like, so close to a wedgie for so much of that movie.
She looked uncomfortable.
Like, it was distracting.
Yeah.
Like, I was going, her ass is hanging out of her pants. That can't be fun for her.
But I did like that costume-wise, we saw glimpses of other things which should appease people to go, well, you know, look, we tried things, you know, is that what you wanted? It's like, well, no, I don't know if it is. I kind of like what we've got. So, yeah, they were all kind of great. Diablo was better than I expected. I just said, they were all kind of great, like, as a segue, but that was completely opposite of what we've been talking about. They weren't all kind of great at all.
And it was just so, like, there's a couple of deaths. I'm obviously not going to say who, but the way that was so fucking telegraphed, because it was like, well, okay, this, you know, this character is not in your main squad, so they're probably going to die, and we're setting up a whole lot of emotional backstory for this character, so they're probably going to die. And it's like, well, like, it was so obvious. And then when those things actually happened, it was just like, oh, well, just move on. Yeah, we don't care.
That's clumsy. That doesn't worry me too much. Like, plot-wise, it's like, I said to you beforehand, before we saw it, when I was thinking that I was going to enjoy it, that looking for a plot in these films is like searching for a dog's taint. Like, you know it's there, but there are better ways to enjoy the dog. And the problem with this is that this dog's got a really weird taint, and every time you go to pat it, it insists on rolling over and showing it to you. Like, it's not that... I don't mind MacGuffins and conveniences, and I'm certainly don't have any issue with, oh my god, like, such and such, the soul is in the sword, or, you know, no, it's a comic book. I'm cool with that. That's what I signed up for. It's just baffling that they chose to focus on what they focused on. You just think, why is this the story? Like, you've got so many other things to play with. And, it is just alienating, like, what they chose to focus it on.
Yeah.
And I just wish developing the Joker better and playing with that idea that, well, you know, why not? It's simple as fuck, but why not just have them, you guys have got to take down the Joker. We're going to have to do it in a shady way. We're going to not be going through legal things in order to do it, but that's because he's dangerous and compromised.
And then is Harley a double agent?
And then Harley's conflicted.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you still have all those other... Like, I feel like you could take those same sets, those same actors, those same costumes, everything, and just shuffle it all around. Like, I'm not...
Yeah.
I don't have that, like, purist kind of, but it should have been this version of Harley, or it should have been this version of Joker, or anything like that. But just find something. It's just baffling that that's where they ended up. And fucking Joel Kinnaman, and I said this back with RoboCop, is just not a leading dude. And when you have him up against someone like Will Smith, who has that movie star presence, he just looks like a fucking little nobody.
Yeah, Rick Flag was awful.
Yeah, I hate Rick Flag.
Like, just get rid of all of that. I must say about Will Smith, though, even though he did have a wonderful presence, and I do like watching him in a movie, he will be very well rested, because he sleptwalked his way through that movie.
Nobody has...
He didn't have to do much.
Nobody has to develop anything. Nobody has that opportunity. The scenes are really... It's hard, because you go... It's very front-loaded, and it makes me think that the bulk of the reshoots were adding all that exposition at the beginning, all the flashbacks for the various characters, because that feels more expensive. You know, you've got lots of quick shots in different environments and things. Whereas I felt like the whole second half is characters in bright costumes walking around dark, smoky hallways and streets and stuff. But even then, it managed to just... Every scene was just very short. The snippets of dialogue were very small. Obviously, there were things missing from the trailer and stuff, as has been everything this year. Which is that other problem. Like, I don't know what the solution is, because you have... nerds are so vocal about these things beforehand that I think that fucks with the movie making process as well now in a negative way. Things are screen tested to death and people go, oh, people didn't like this in the trailer or this, or people have complained about this. And things just get fucking reworked and remixed constantly. And you end up with a film which you go, whose vision is this? Like, was this studio interference? Is this the fact that David Ayer is just a fucking nut? Like, I don't know how he made Fury, because he wrote and directed this thing. And Fury was great.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I don't know if they're still contracted through the promotion of this movie or something, but these people, they're defending this movie. Like, David Ayer is coming out and saying, well, this is the movie that I wanted to make and I made it for the fans, and the Diablo guy is going, you know, the critics are idiots, and I'm just like, wow, okay, do you really need to be defending it that hard? Because there's not going to be another one.
Well, no, they probably will. Like, I think DC's pretty... I mean, I think they'll mine... We're pretty sure they're going to mine the Harley character and give her a spin-off or something, and then they'll probably do that sort of Avengers thing where you get the odd character come through.
Yeah, like they'll bring the characters back, but I feel like as an actual thing,
like Suicide Squad
is not going to happen, no.
Yeah. Because it has no reason to.
No.
And especially if you take that story we saw for what it was, the end of it surely would be everyone going, what? That was a fucking terrible idea that backfired horribly.
Yeah.
You can't do anything like that again.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what the after credit scene was.
Yeah.
It was just like, that was shit. We'll take it from here. And I was like, fantastic. That should have been the fucking thing before the movie came out. Just going, hang on, maybe we just made a mistake here.
Just let actors act. That's my biggest problem, I think, now that we're sort of a day away, is like, give those guys a space to develop something. Like, give them scenes which are longer than 30 seconds and let them find what their characters are about and interact with each other and stuff like that. Give them, Civil War, again, the storyline's not even really that important, but the way that it takes a big ensemble cast and gives everybody something significant, gives everybody a moment, and doesn't feel you need to rush it all at once. Because it's really audacious when you're sitting through now let me tell you about this character, now we're going to tell you about this character, now they say when you learn screenwriting and stuff that the audience is supposed to know exactly what the movie is about within 15 minutes, I think it is. It might even be like probably fucking something like 7 minutes these days. Like, you should know what the premise is. And this wasn't like that. You went, well, okay, you've introduced me to everybody, and you're gonna, but I don't know what.
Well, in 7 minutes, you've met Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
Well, I had no idea
okay,
what they were what the problem was. Why are they being assembled? What are they gonna go and face? The trailers don't tell you what the problem's gonna be, and that's because the problem is absolutely batshit. I'm looking forward to when this comes out on DVD or something, and someone recuts a trailer of some of the because it's so uneven. There are some beautiful shots in this film. There are some really clever ideas and moments, and then there are some things which just a B-movie, just nuts. And I almost want to see the B-movie version of the trailer where it just takes some of those wild things where you go, if that was the trailer, you'd just be like, what the fuck is this film?
Yeah.
I want to say some good things, though. There was some innovation in there. I love Enchantress's transformation in that room. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that was probably my favourite
just so
visual
clever
kind of moment there. Yeah.
Also, I think we talked about this before. Like, I'm conscious of not taking things for granted in the sense that, do you remember, like, when you're younger, you're watching a Spider-Man movie or something, and you think about the comics and you think, why can't Wolverine just turn up? Or why can't Daredevil be in a scene? Or something like that. And you know it can never happen. That's not going to happen. But the fact that even if it was a bit unceremonious, the fact that suddenly Batman can be in this movie and it is Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Like, that's really fucking cool. And I love that the bottle's been opened on that now, and that's the way going forward. That you might be watching something and go, oh, he's that character. Shit.
Yeah.
And it will feel like comics. And just Civil War did that as well, with suddenly you're going, I'm seeing Spider-Man standing next to Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. This is amazing. So, I feel positive about that. And I think that, going forward, I hope they find a way to harness it, because they've got some good people. I think there's some really appealing... I know, like, the nerds are probably harder on... And I'm sorry to dismissively just collectively say nerds. But what I mean is, like, people that care about this stuff. Because the truth is, like, you go to your workplace or whatever and talk about stuff like this. People don't care to this degree. They're not going to talk about stuff or worry about stuff to the degree that we talk about it. But they seem to have the biggest problem with Superman. I quite like Cavill. I know there's people that want that very pure Superman, and fair enough. But I like the Affleck Batman. I'm even willing to give Leto's Joker another chance, but he needs to be given stronger direction, and he needs space to move. So I'm not opposed to any of these actors or characters, except for Joel Kinnaman does nothing for me, and it's a character that does nothing for me. But I just want him to get it right. I want him to find that groove, because for me, when something like this happens, what I cannot fathom is the people that are gloating about it failing, and the people that seem really proud that something's failed. Like, I can never be behind that mindset. For me, it's actually really disappointing. And
yeah, that was really frustrating when those early reviews came out and people were just so gleeful about it not being good. And it's like, why are you expending your energy in that way? Like, why does it matter that much?
Because I want everything to be like Heath Ledger's Joker, and I don't mean in tone, I mean in the sense that was something that was announced. It was something where the filmmakers had more imagination and more of a vision than the fans did. Yeah. People complained about it, bitched about it, and were proven wrong. And everybody benefits from that, because everyone enjoyed the fuck out of it. Yeah. And it was good for Heath Ledger, it was good for Nolan, it was good for the audiences, it was just good for everybody. And it kind of proved that, these are some creative people that can do some... they think about these things more than your knee-jerk reaction. And just because, you think Crispin Glover kind of looks like the Joker doesn't mean that, one, he's an easy person to work with, or two, that he's going to do it, He's sometimes got to think outside the box. And I want everything to be like that. I remember when people were saying, a talking raccoon and stuff, that movie's going to be shit. And then everyone loved it. And that makes me happy. So I'm happy at things like that, but I'm not going to be happy that something I wanted to enjoy fell short. Because it's just one of those tough ones where you think, I don't know if I can't imagine I'd be in a rush to watch it again. It wasn't the most horrible thing I've seen this year even, but it is one of the most baffling.
Yeah, I was looking through my Letterboxd diary of things I've seen this year, and I think it probably is the movie that I've been able to get the least out of. Really, I found that it was just kind of hard to get into, and just quite mean-spirited.
It was at times.
There was just the way that, I said my problem was with the Harley introduction, just the way that she was spoken to in those opening scenes. And
I didn't mind that in that. Yeah,
I guess you could say, well, there's a context because they want to display how awful that guard is. But then again, they didn't do anything with that guard. He disappeared halfway through the movie and then nothing happened there. Yeah. And he'd already established that by being shitty to Deadshot already. And then there's a scene later on where
I do watch a lot of Orange is the New Black, though, and I'm very used to seeing guards be pricks to inmates.
Yes. And then there's a bit where Batman just punches Harley in the face. And then there's a bit later on where a woman just gets punched in the face, and they go to the dude, well, why did you do that? And it's basically well, she spoke to me. And I'm just like, what the fuck? In 2016, why are we still writing that? Why is that happening?
Why? Well, let's turn it on the audience as well. Why is Batman punching her in the face one of the biggest laughs?
Well, yeah. I feel like there was the one where the lady got punched a bit later on. People kind of reacted to it, but it was more sort of nervous laughter. I didn't think it was people going, "That's funny." It was a bit like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it just left a really, really bad taste in my mouth. I didn't get a lot of joy out of it, and it was it was very disappointing.
I agree with you, but I think just in terms of I'm always a bit down on people nitpicking things. Not to say that's a nitpick, but I think nitpicks are usually so far beyond what the problem is. And it was like when we talked about Killing Joke, when I was saying that, you can talk about the treatment of Batgirl, but the problem, that's 3 problems down the road from the first problem that caused this, made this thing exist in the first place. So, it's a fucking weird one, and it's a real shame because I wanted to love it. And I said, I'll fucking fool me twice. I'll come back again. I would definitely try with these characters again. But, I'd really like to see... I want to see them have space. Because it's never going to be the story. But less of all that fucking weird bullshit and more of the... establishing these characters, make us care.
Yeah, and you do, it just almost did feel like they forced it a bit. One of the characters refers to the other characters as their family, and it's like, you've fucking known each other about 10 hours.
Yeah,
what is
the
happening
timeline's
here?
really unclear.
Like,
but then,
it's so weird.
That said, let's not lose sight of, because it's very easy for people to be like, and ourselves, Civil War or whatever, these are really superior movies. Let's not forget that sort of journey. I mean, if you look at, I really dig where they're going with Black Widow now. She's starting to become this really interesting character, and I don't even think she's by any means peaked there. I think there's so much more exploration, and you look at where she was in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
And, that was an absolutely fucking nothing character. And we didn't go, oh, that didn't work, let's never see that again. You keep rolling with it, and you keep, if you've got elements that worked... I'm not suggesting, well, let's all fucking throw them out the window and pretend this never happened. Fuck Suicide Squad. It's like, no, there's stuff in there, but you gotta let it develop. Let's find it. Because it took a few movies before, she was a bit better in Avengers, and then Winter Soldier was a big leap forward. You just... It's sometimes about the right people and the right circumstances. And also, I think Margot Robbie going forward, if she continues to pursue this character, which I can't imagine she wouldn't, will have a lot more power in the situation as well. Because, she's a bigger asset. I think it was kind of... having seen her in Tarzan recently kind of spoiled it a bit as well, because I was like... I'm not seeing enough new. I'm not seeing these new tricks that I need. Whereas maybe if I hadn't just seen Tarzan, I'd be like, oh, Margot Robbie. I'm sort of getting, introduced to her on the big screen in a... But it was kind of like, it took the wind out of the sails a bit for me, because it was like, oh yeah, I'm a bit overly familiar with her already. But anyway, there you go. You happy to put a lid on that until the next time they do it?
Yeah, I'm happy to put that to bed.
I just want to quickly say we have hit the hour and we've got to get ready and go. But it was my 40th birthday on Monday. We're about to go to my party. Jacinta is one of the best gift givers in the world.
It's like it's my superpower.
You've I think. Wait, did I open the Space Jam?
Yeah, was that last year or the year before?
That was on the podcast,
yes,
I'm pretty sure. Got a big framed parcel today, opened it up. Obviously, this is so apt for this show, particularly because you'll know the thing that we liked more than anything this year was watching Downton Abbey together, and I had a big crush on Lady Mary, who a lot of people say she's kind of an ice queen. We know she's got a magical vagina, and she's a very charming person, and I love her. I think Edith had it coming. But
poor Edith.
It's a beautiful framed arrangement, I should say. It's not
Like
just
a
a single
collage-y
picture.
kind of-
But that makes it sound... It's
Like
actually... It's properly framed, matted, like something you'd see in a memorabilia shop. It's to the right is a, what are they?
8 by 10 portrait.
8 by 10
Yeah.
portrait of Lady Mary from the show. And then on the left-hand side, it all sort of matted, presented beautifully, are 3 trading cards from the Downton Abbey. But not just any. There are 2 wardrobe cards. They contain pieces of wardrobe from Lady Mary's outfits in the show.
That may have touched the magical vagina, we don't know.
Or at least have gotten some of the funk from it. And right in the middle there is her actual signature card as well. So her signature, bits of her clothing, a big picture of her, all beautifully presented in a frame. It blew me away. I can't see it from here. I'm going to be staring at it a lot. And very, very exciting. And something, if you've heard us talk about Downton Abbey.
We love Downton Abbey, and he's actually really lucky that he even got it, because I was putting it all together last night and was like, oh, maybe I could just buy him something else and keep this for myself, because it's really cool.
And it's excellent, because my favourite things in my collection have been, and you'll see from my tattoos and stuff like that, all the female pop culture icons. Like, whenever I do a cull, I always keep that sort of stuff, and I've got my Black Widow stuff and my Rey stuff, and then I've got all my pop vinyls are all the, I just got Ramona Flowers, for example. And Lady Mary, she's up there. She's one of them. I don't have any Lady Mary stuff because
it doesn't exist.
Where do you get that? So to have
Forget hashtag where's Ray, hashtag where's Lady Mary.
Exactly. So to have her in a really significant piece of the collection is just beautiful. So that's fantastic. I'm thrilled. Now I have to get it tattooed on my huge portrait of her on my back, I think.
Yeah, well, you're not going to be getting Suicide Squad Harley Quinn, so you can get Lady Mary instead.
Well, not yet, anyway. And yeah, I'm very glad, because if people don't know, when I kept saying I was going to get Holtzman, whether Ghostbusters was good or not, and I booked it for the morning after we saw it, the other character that I've been tossing up was the Harley Quinn, and she hasn't earned it yet, but Holtzman did. I really loved Holtzman, so Holtzman's on the arm. I'm proud of that. And onward. So yeah, thank you again, Jacinta. It's just fucking amazing, and I'm looking forward to tonight. And thanks everyone for listening. And you can rate reviewers on iTunes, talk to us on the Facebook page, discuss what you thought of the film, and people are already doing that, and I don't disagree with most of what's being said. You can find all that on fruitlesspursuits.com. I have not checked the reviews in the last couple of days, but I do want to thank Emily, who did review this show on iTunes, left a lovely 5-star review. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We usually read those out, but I'm just not prepared today. We're sort of all these things are happening, and I don't have the window open. But thank you so much. That means a lot to me. If anyone else would like to do that to celebrate our 150th, my 40th, any other excuse I can think of to try and guilt you into doing it, then please do that as well. And that's the show.
That is it. I think we have High Rise next week, which has come out here much later than everywhere else.
You know what else comes out next week?
What?
Sausage Party.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah.
We'll negotiate that. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.